Thousands of American workers have just disappeared from the production line. In one night, factories that once supported whole communities closed their gates forever. And the reason started with a decision signed in Washington. The scary part is that this is not just about numbers. It is about millions of families suddenly losing their only source of income. As prices went up, retirement savings shrank, family dinners became harder to afford, and jobs collapsed. The story of Stellantis is no longer just about Jeep or Ram vehicles. It is now a warning. The American dream can vanish faster than you can finish paying off your truck. Today, we look at the crisis in the Midwest, where the collapse of Stellantis is creating a storm of unemployment. Who will suffer most? And what does this mean for the future of American industry? This is independent analysis based on public information. It is not financial or political advice. CNN published an article titled, "U.S. Auto Jobs Could Be Lost Quickly in Trade Showdown." Stellantis was the first company to make this a reality. Workers at many factories are now being laid off. The company calls it a temporary layoff. But what does temporary mean? Bills come every month, credit card companies call every day, and tuition fees never wait. A 25% tariff policy that was supposed to protect American jobs has created a domino effect. Thousands of families are now at risk. Each worker who loses a job is not just a number. It means a family dinner without enough food. It means children watching their parents return home with worry on their faces. Thousands of Midwest families now face unpaid car loans, unpaid medical bills, and canceled vacations. The president of the United Auto Workers Union strongly opposed the cuts. He said Stellantis is playing with the lives of workers. These layoffs are unnecessary. Imagine a family in Detroit. The father worked at the Stellantis factory for 18 years. Now he has a thin notice in his hand saying, "Temporarily laid off." The mother works part-time at Walmart, only enough for groceries. Now the family sits in the kitchen deciding if they should pay the electricity bill or buy insulin for the grandmother. This is no longer just an economic problem. It is survival. Union leaders promise to help, but even they admit they cannot guarantee jobs will return soon. It is the same old story: they will try, but the bills never stop. And here is the irony. A policy meant to protect American workers has instead removed the first American workers. Make America great again is hard to believe when thousands are laid off in the United States itself. People wonder, is the government protecting workers in America, or protecting profits somewhere else? This is not just a cold economic report. It is a heavy blow to the working class. When they lose jobs, they don't only lose a salary. They lose security, faith, and the dream they worked for. And this may only be the beginning. Stock markets like Dow Jones, S&P 500, and Nasdaq also shake when Washington signs one decision. And the ones who lose are not the CEOs with million-dollar bonuses. It is ordinary people with 401k accounts. As soon as the 25% tariff was announced, markets fell. Investors sold quickly. Millions of ordinary people opened their retirement apps and saw red numbers. A steelworker in Ohio lost 15% of his savings in 1 week. His dream truck turned into a cheap bicycle. When markets fall, prices rise. It feels like your savings are stolen, and the next day the supermarket raises beef prices by 20%. This is a double hit: losing money and facing higher costs. The government promised to rebuild the American dream. But for many, that dream now looks like a nightmare on their phone screen. And if you think this only affects Wall Street, look again at your dinner table. The red numbers in the stock market quickly become red price tags in your local store. Prices of beef and milk are at record highs. Shipping costs are also rising because tariffs increase truck costs. Supermarkets pass this to customers. If a middle-class family in Michigan used to spend $150 a week on groceries, that bill can now reach $180 or $200. Over a year, that is $2,500 more the cost of health insurance or a vacation. But instead, it only buys food. Retirees are hit hardest. An elderly woman in Indiana said she must choose between buying heart medicine or buying food. This is not about big economic charts. It is about survival in everyday kitchens. Take a family in Flint, Michigan. They planned a summer trip to Lake Michigan. But gas prices went up by 20%. The vacation budget disappeared. The kids stayed in the backyard while the parents counted pennies for dinner. This is the sad irony. A policy that promised to revive American industry instead made dinner plates emptier. Dreams of vacations and family time were replaced by worry about groceries. And this is only part of the story. Because inside Stellantis factories, there is another reason for job losses. Robots. Robots do not need vacations. They do not need health insurance. They do not ask for overtime pay. Stellantis has invested billions in automation for electric vehicles. Now many workers are seen as extra or redundant. This is the harsh truth. While people are told tariffs are the reason, the deeper reason is robots replacing humans. For a 52-year-old worker who spent half his life in a factory, this is not just news. It is cold reality. He never learned computer skills. He never worked with software. Now he is compared to a robot that can weld 200 joints in minutes. No human can compete with that. For many middle-aged workers in the Midwest, this is the biggest fear. Job interviews are hard to get because factories are modernizing. Learning new skills takes time, money, and energy. At age 50, it feels almost impossible. So many workers are stuck in between. Too young to retire. Too old to retrain. Not fully employed, but not completely unemployed either. Here is the problem. The government can put taxes on Japanese cars. It can create trade barriers with Canada and Mexico. But it cannot tax robots. Robots are replacing workers shift by shift. Robots do not have borders. They never get tired. They never ask for health insurance or overtime pay. The hardest part is this. When you lose your job because of politics, you can still hope that politics may change one day. But if you lose your job to a robot, no one is going to call you back. And this is not just about one factory. It affects the entire supply chain in North America. Canada and Mexico are also caught in this problem. One border stretches for thousands of miles. One political decision is signed in Washington. Suddenly the US, Canada, and Mexico are all pulled into the same crisis. The 25% US tariff caused Stellantis to pause production in Windsor, Canada. It shut down for a whole month in Toluca, Mexico. It laid off thousands of American workers. This is no longer just a Detroit or Midwest story. It has become a North American chain reaction. For decades, the US, Canada, and Mexico worked together through NAFTA. A Jeep Compass sold in Michigan might have its engine built in Mexico. Its body stamped in Canada. Its finishing done in the US. If one part of that chain breaks, the whole system stops. And this time, it is not a broken machine. It is policy. The impact is real. In Windsor, a husband and wife both worked at Stellantis. They lost their jobs at the same time. In Mexico, thousands of workers lost a month of income. They had to delay buying homes. In the US, Midwest workers are asking if this is really the protection they were promised. The slogan, "Make America Great Again," sounds strong. But in reality, the US is hurting its neighbors, its partners, and families who share ties across borders. If greatness means turning friends into victims, then who is truly winning? This is just the first domino. The media may talk about 900 or 1,000 jobs. But the bigger picture is worse. If this continues, the Midwest could relive the painful 1980s. That was when Detroit and other cities became part of the Rust Belt. Back then, busy streets turned into empty wastelands. Factories closed. Windows broke. For sale signs were everywhere. That could happen again. Not just in Detroit but across the Midwest. Stellantis is only the first name. If Ford, GM, and Toyota react the same way to tariffs, the Midwest could face a new labor crisis. When one factory closes, it does not just cut jobs on the production line. It affects restaurants. It affects shops. It affects health services and schools. One plant can support 5 to 7 other jobs in the region. If it closes, the town can lose 20% of its income. Then crime rises. Young people move away. Schools lose teachers. Churches close. The whole community falls into decline. Take Indiana for example. In one small town, Stellantis is the largest employer. If that factory shuts down, the entire town will collapse within months. The grocery store would close. The hospital would be underfunded. Homes would be abandoned. The root cause is short-term politics instead of a long-term plan. Leaders make quick promises to protect workers. But the real bills keep coming, and the protection disappears. The Midwest is supposed to be the industrial heart of America. But now it risks becoming the unemployment center of America. A new Rust Belt 2.0. If Stellantis is just the start, what happens if Ford and GM follow? If one decision can erase 900 jobs, what about 90,000? Imagine a GM plant closing in Ohio. Thousands of workers would crowd the unemployment office. Or Ford cutting jobs in Illinois. Entire neighborhoods would go silent. The Midwest could turn into a giant museum of unemployment. Abandoned factories. Empty towns. Broken dreams. The ripple effect would touch everything. Healthcare systems would lose funding. Schools would cut teachers. Police would have fewer resources. Crime would rise. Families would suffer. Middle-aged workers are especially trapped. Too young to retire. Too old to start over. Policies advertised as protection could end up destroying the very workers they claim to defend. This is not just about jobs. It is about families. It is about communities. It is about the American dream itself. At the end of the day, Washington will not pay your electric bill. Only you and your family can keep the lights on. The solution may not come from politicians. It may come from communities supporting each other. From saving money. From preparing for hard times. Just like on the Titanic. If you cannot trust the captain, you need to make sure your family has life jackets. In one night, thousands of jobs disappeared. A policy called Protect American Jobs ended up cutting American workers first. And the effects are spreading. From family dinner tables to the industrial heartland of the Midwest. The question remains: is this really protection? Or just a political gamble where workers pay the price? Now I want to hear from you. Has your family faced job loss, rising prices, or sudden policy changes? Share your story in the comments. Because the truth is not always on TV. It is in our everyday lives. If you found this video helpful, do not forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. That way you will not miss more discussions about how economics and politics shape daily life. And finally, remember this. This video is for analysis and commentary, not financial or political advice. Always check official sources before making decisions about money or work. See you in the next video, where we continue to uncover the big stories hidden behind small headlines.